Hello and welcome to the second of the live calendar election debates from key constituencies in our region. Tonight we've come to Batley in West Yorkshire. We're here in the heart of the marginal constituency of Batley and Spen. We are in fact in Batley High School for Boys before an invited audience of supporters of the three main parties. And they'll very shortly now be putting questions to the candidates. That's to Elizabeth Peacock, who won the seat for the Conservatives at the last general election, to Labour's Ken Woolmer, who's a former Member of Parliament for Batley, and to the SDP's Keith Burke, who's standing for the Alliance. Now, a fourth candidate is offering himself for election here in Batley and Spen. He's Alan Harrison of the newly formed Moderate Labour Party. He's not with us tonight, but he will be putting his case forward as to why he thinks he should be elected as the MP in just a few moments. Now, the constituency of Batley and Spen is a new one. It was formed just before the last election in 1983. It is in fact made up of parts of three older constituencies, of Batley and Morley, Brighouse and Spenborough, and Dewsbury. Ruth Pitt's been finding out what the issues are here on which the electors will make up their minds.
The days when Batley and Spen thrived on textiles are long since gone. Many of the old warehouses and mills stand empty and derelict, victims of the recession. Thousands of jobs were lost in the decline of the wool and textile industry, and although new industry is being generated in the area, unemployment is still a crucial issue. Batley Grammar School focuses another important talking point, education. If elected, the Tories would increase their assisted places scheme, but a Labour administration would scrap the idea altogether. Down the road in Heckmondwike, plans have been suggested to change the old system of separate secondary, modern and grammar schools by merging them into one. There's no real nucleus to this constituency. It's made up of a collection of differing areas, like the market towns of Heckmondwike and Cleckheaton, and the almost rural hamlets such as Gummersall, right in the heart of Batley and Spen. It means plenty of footwork for the candidates, all following what they hope will be the path to success. Elizabeth Peacock is defending her Conservative seat in what's a highly marginal constituency.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Peacock, the Conservative candidate for the general election. Might we look to you for some support?
You certainly can, yes.
I know that it's a busy day because...
yes, we're just actually moving house today, so you've caught us on a bad day.
But you're not moving out of the area?
Ken Woolmer, the Labour candidate, was Batley's MP before reorganisation. He wants the seat back again.
What is the first thing a Labour government's got to do, do you think?
Well, they certainly ought to look after pensioners.
Yeah, pensioners, do you think?
I mean, what can you do on about £40 a week?
How much do they give you the rise this year? What was the rise?
£40. That was an absolute disgrace.
Was it?
In February.
The Alliance candidate is local man Keith Burke, standing for the first time in a general election.
What do you feel about the situation? Are you all unemployed?
No, on the scheme.
On these schemes. What do you think about these schemes?
They're all right.
You know, you're getting some training, are you?
Yeah.
You don't feel as if you're wasting your time then?
Before the parliamentary boundary changes, Batley was joined with Morley in a safe Labour seat, and Spenborough was formerly associated with the more conservative areas. Now, the towns and villages in and around Heckmondwike and Cleckheaton have joined the ranks of many Pennine textile marginals. But the voters still feel strongly about what they consider to be the major issues.
The rundown plight of the place, the tidying up of the place, the works, you know, I mean, the redevelopment of everything.
Well, unemployment for a start, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's virtually none at the moment, yeah.
I think it's unemployment mainly.
Unemployment and, you know, poor housing.
They're all one lot. They all make out they're going to do this, they're going to do that, and they do bugger all.
Well, that was Ruth Pitt getting it in the neck on behalf of political candidates everywhere this general election. Well, now, the audience here will be putting their questions in just a moment, but as I said just now, there is a fourth candidate standing in this election in Batley and Spen, and he's Alan Harrison of the Moderate Labour Party.
Moderate Labour Party policies are designed to appeal to all people from centre of the Labour Party through to the centre of the Conservative Party. We feel that the family unit is being eroded at by minority groups. We feel that it should be given more support in the community. We fully support the Conservative policy of a full nuclear deterrent, and we fully approve of the Labour policy of increasing spending on the health service. As for unemployment, we disapprove of the Labour policy of spending billions of pounds on creating jobs and then having to spend more money on maintaining those created jobs. We say that if things like planning had more access to consent, more consent to the people of the community, and then jobs will be created in that way. There are many small businesses that cannot get off the ground because planning refuses them permission to do so. They've only been going a small time, and we now have over 20 paid-up members in West Yorkshire, but we do get support from other sections of the public. The Moderate Labour Party stands for all sensible policies, whatever their sources. Common sense would be the word to describe what we stand for.
Well, that was the fourth candidate. Let's now have the first question from John Rutherford. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Nationally, the engineering industry and the textile and clothing industry have both lost over 300,000 jobs since 1979. Isn't this decline in our manufacturing industry dangerous, both to the country and especially to Yorkshire?
Before we put that to the panel, can I just ask you, you're sitting there surrounded by a sea of red rosettes. Do you say that this decline is the fault of Conservative policies?
I believe it's the fault of the Conservatives because of the policies that they've followed since 1979.
Well, let me put that to Elizabeth Peacock. Guilty or not guilty, as charged?
I'm not guilty. I think it's a great shame that we couldn't have had our fourth candidate here. It would have been very interesting to have some moderate Labour views, because as we all know, the party in the next Parliament will be so far to the left, I think the textile industry will suffer more. But to come back to the questioner, of course there have been job losses, but the decline in the textile industry and in engineering started long before 1979. And if people were honest, jobs were lost before then. We now have in this area massive reinvestment in manufacturing. At the moment, we have 2 new factories on the Rawfields estate, both manufacturing. Both have moved from small premises. They've created jobs. We have a new factory at Birstall creating jobs. That also is manufacturing.
Can I just ask you this? I mean, the gentleman there, John Rutherford, talks about 300,000 jobs. Are these investments and these new factories you talk about going to do anything like make up for those jobs that have been lost since 1979? Well,
obviously, it's not going to create that amount of jobs in one fell swoop. But this week we shall cut the turf again up at Birstall for another new factory, which by autumn will create 250 new jobs. That again is investment in manufacturing. Those companies are only investing in manufacturing because they see an economic future for this country, which has not been present before. And that is due to Conservative policies.
Ken Woolmer.
Well, Britain...
A moderate Labour view, no doubt.
Well, I thought, if I may say so, the introductory comments by the Conservative candidate indicated that she's more interested in point scoring than the real needs of unemployment in the area. We have got over 5,000 unemployed. The Labour Party is concerned about the 5,000 people unemployed in Batley and Spen. I'll just give you 2 or 3 names: Birstall Carpets, Humphrey Carpets, Blackburn's Mills, Mintex and Scandur have lost a lot. We've had mills close, we've had factories make major redundancies, and what the Labour Party is determined to do is to get 1 million people back into work within 2 years.
How many of those 1 million people do you think will be from round here? How many of those million will be part of the 300,000 John Rutherford talks about?
Well, certainly in terms of this constituency, something in the order in the first 2 years, about 1,500 to 2,000 off those dole queues. Our policies are very much aimed at the heartlands of manufacturing industry. Just let me make one single statistic that brings it home to you. 95% of all jobs lost in this country under the Conservatives have been lost in the northern half of Britain. Almost it feels as if the Conservatives have ignored the northern needs and concentrated too much of their efforts on the City of London. And we're going to start putting the balance where it should be: manufacturing industry and the areas that need it, like Batley and Spen.
Keith Burke, what's the Alliance going to do about the industrial decline in this part of the world?
Well, it's a similar policy to the Labour parties, but ours has been costed and we feel it will take a little longer, an extra 12 months in fact.
Do you think the Labour Party plans then are profligate and unrealistic? Their spending
I'd
plans?
like to see the figures. I'd like to see them costed. It's all very well coming out with these plans. If you've got the costings for them and it's legitimate, then we have to look at the situation as it is, and unemployment is far too high, and something has got to be done about it. It cannot continue the way it is.
Just give me, say, a couple of things which you would do specifically on day one in office, which people in this constituency, indeed in Yorkshire and the North generally, would feel would be helpful with unemployment.
Well, one of the first things we'd do is get out there and do something with these roads. If you're going to invite new businesses into this locality, you're going to have to do something with the infrastructure. All right, let's go back to Mr. Rutherford, and indeed let's take some comments from the audience on what they've heard. Mr. Rutherford.
I'm concerned at the Conservative answer because the GP is so complacent about the fact that unemployment's grown, it's almost trebled since '79, and it's a genuine worry to people. And
but are you not impressed? I mean, Mrs. Peacock puts her finger and points at new factories which have opened around here. Are you not impressed? Or?
I'm not impressed in the... I'm pleased to see new businesses opening, but it's not taking up the lost jobs. Within textiles, for instance, in Batley in Spain, and I'm involved in that industry, I've seen 4,000 jobs disappear since 1979. Now, the new jobs aren't replacing those jobs.
All right, let's take the point there. Gentleman had his hand up. Yes, sir.
I was interested to hear what Mr. Peacock said about the decline of the textile industry prior to '79. The fact of the matter is that prior to '79, the textile industry had a surplus of imports exports as against imports. In 1987, they have a deficit of £1,000 million. So to turn a surplus into a £1,000 million deficit takes some beating.
Let's take another point from the gentleman behind you in the white sweater. Yes, sir.
This claim by Ken Woolman that Labour are going to create 1 million jobs is a bit futile, to say the least. Despite the actual possibilities of that being very remote in 12 months, the actual claim is not 1 million jobs, but a third of those are actually going to be training places, which they don't claim to be real jobs. So how can that be 1 million?
All right, let's take one more point down here. Yes, sir, you wanted to come in, I think.
Yes. I wonder if Mrs. Peacock would like to pursue the point that Ken Woolman made, that 95% of the jobs that have been lost in the northern region. I know she did claim about some new factories being opened. I mean, the truth of those is that those have been done by a Kirklees Labour Council in the main, as those factories have been assisted, not by a Conservative central government. So what a Conservative future government is likely to do for West Yorkshire.
Can we just give the panel then one more quick go at this one? Yeah. They're claiming that the jobs that are coming here because of the activities of Labour councils and not because of your economic policies at all.
No, those factories, all the new factories, are coming here because I succeeded in persuading the government in 1984 to give most of my constituency a listed area space. Those factories and jobs would not be here without government grant.
Right. Ken Woolman.
What I find fascinating about the Conservatives as we come to elections, that all of a sudden public spending and government aid is a good thing. For 7.5 years, I've been hearing that government grants and subsidies, government spending is actually damaging the economy. I think everybody would wish they lived in a marginal constituency, quite frankly. But let me make the point again. It's sheer complacency. There are 5,000 people. There's probably over 2,000 been overworked for over a year. Our job isn't to be complacent. It's to get manufacturing industry back into work, and that's what a Labour government's going to do.
Steve Burke.
Yes, we need real manufacturing industry. These firms are very good. They're excellent. I mean, it's better than nothing, but it's not enough.
How are you going to get more manufacturing industry?
By going out and, as an MP...
Not just by mending the roads.
No. As an MP, you should be out there lobbying these big companies. We have an area here with willing workers. The strike potential in this area is very, very low indeed. When we've talked about textile industries, a low-paid industry. People used to have to work over 2 nights a week and Saturday mornings to earn a living.
Right.
And they didn't strike. So there's loyalty there.
Right. Let's take a next question now from Mr. Abdul Ghaffar Chima, another interesting local point. Mr. Chima.
What is the view of the panel on the question separate schools for Muslim girls?
Can I just ask you, just for people who are watching this who don't know this area, are there any separate schools at the moment?
Yes, there is one in...
but nothing like enough?
No.
OK. Mr. Bird, do you want to take that one first?
Yes, that's a difficult one, is that? Because if you are living in a country where there is low unemployment, there's all this unemployment about, and you want to go out and get a job, then you need to be going through the school curriculum in order to get the subjects that are going to help you to get that job. If you're going to go to a different type of school and learn another culture, you're really putting yourself behind the rest of the queue.
Are you actually saying then you think that perhaps Muslim children who go to Muslim schools will be disadvantaged when they come to go on the job market?
Oh, I think so, yes.
Let's put it straight back to Mr. Cheeman. Would you accept that point, sir?
I don't accept this because it's only for the girls. We are not against the system of education, but we have some religious restrictions and cultural restrictions on the girls' education.
Okay.
So that's why we need girls should be get
Ken Woolman, what would you do about this? How would you cope with this one if you were the MP here?
Yes, I think people don't realise, if they're not a part of the Muslim community, that it's a matter of very genuine concern to very many people in that community. And I myself fully recognise that there will need to develop the possibility of Muslim schools, just as of course there are...
Funded by the state or the local education authority?
Just as there are grant-aided, grant-assisted schools for Catholic children, for Church of England and so on. I mean, this is something in this area. We have absorbed and worked together as Catholics and Protestants over the years, and I can see that this is something that will develop. I think the school, for example, in Batley, I think that may be uppermost in the mind, is one that is trying to do a very good job. They're currently applying for a full grant status, and I hope very much that they do pull it off. Don't underestimate at all the real determination of people in the Asian community, just as in the, could I call it the white community, to get the very best of education for their children. Education is what is needed for all our kids, and I want to see the best for all communities.
Elizabeth Peacock, do you favour the idea of separate schools for Muslim girls, Mr. Cheeman was asking?
Yes, the Conservatives have always supported freedom of choice, and I think here we have a fine example of freedom of choice locally. There is a very good school, the Zachariah Muslim Girls' School. They did have some problems in the beginning, and they have now been able to sort those out. They've recruited the right level of teachers, and those girls will have the subjects that they need to pass into a working life.
Are you going to give a commitment then that if you're re-elected?
There is no doubt about the commitment from the Conservatives. It is fully there. And in
you
fact,
believe in choice, but will you put the money up?
Oh yes, why shouldn't they have voluntary aided status? Mr Baker announced yesterday that how he will fund in the future to independent schools, and also how he will enable schools now in the state system to opt to be independent if they so wish.
Let's just take a couple of quick points before we move on. Yes, sir, you had your hand up first, the brown shirt.
I'm interested in what Mrs Peacock had to say about making sure that the funding was there, because it seems to me that the Conservatives actually don't know what they're doing about education. Mrs Thatcher
Let's
says
just stick on particularly Muslim education.
Mrs Thatcher says that the Conservatives will let schools opt out of the state system to become fee-paying.
No.
The Secretary of State says totally different. Yeah. Can't they make up their mind?
The Secretary of State's word is the one we have to take now on this. Is it right? Yes, gentleman there in the middle.
If I may say so, this is a testimony to the lack of action that the Labour Party have done in Kirklees and Spenborough, because the Muslims are realising that they want independent schools, and they're not wanting to join in the wreckage that's become of our schools.
All right, good point. Yes, thank you. Your point. Yes, the gentleman down there. Yes, sir. Last question.
Yes. Can I just ask if the Conservative candidate is aware that the school recently applied for specialist teachers to be brought into this country because they are non-available here, and the recent visit by the Minister of Immigration and Nationality, Mr. Waddington, where this was raised, he was not able to commit anything on behalf of the government. In fact, refused that there's any possibility at this stage of allowing the school, which is desperate for teachers, right, to allow somebody to come in.
Can I just take that as a statement? I'm sorry, because we must move on. We've had a good shout on this. Can we take a question now from Anne Dickinson, please?
Thank you. I would like to ask the panel for their views on the perpetual and ever-increasing problem of violence and vandalism in this area.
Right. Where should we start? Ken Woolman, what would you do? I mean, not just in this area, but in the country as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, the situation now is reaching, I think, genuinely a crisis. And my own view is that this genuinely shouldn't almost be a party political issue. It is really worrying people. I mean, way back now in '79, Mrs Thatcher did think that she had got an easy answer to the thing and thought that short, sharp socks and so on would sort it out. But since then, we've had this enormous rise, 33% in our area, and it's going on and on and on. And the Labour Party believes that we've got to take this very seriously indeed. And I'll just say three things. First of all, we really do still need more bobbies on the beat. There's not a shadow of a doubt that the best assistance to people is to have policemen around in the community. Secondly, and you've only got to walk around some of our estates, they're badly lit, they stand a prey to people as they walk around. I'm not surprised that mugging is increasing. And thirdly, I don't think we can ignore the fact that there must be some connection between rising unemployment, the helplessness felt by youths, and crime. There must be some connection. Now, don't let's say that's the only reason, but people who say there's no connection between the helplessness and hopelessness of unemployment and being tempted to mug, tempting to grab, really, quite frankly, don't face the kind of life that a lot of those unemployed young people
live. That's three important points. Keith Berg, what about the Alliance?
Well, I wouldn't go along with that. I don't think that you can make excuses for people that go out and do wanton vandalism. There is no excuse for it whatsoever.
The concern expressed by Anne Dickinson, and no doubt shared by many people in this audience and those watching at home,
yes,
is what the parties are going to do to try and actually decrease the level of crime so people feel safer on the streets.
We have to increase the police force, and we have to give them real prison, not prison sentences, but higher sentences when they're caught and brought into court. They're getting away too easily. It's a pat on the back and go away and don't do it again. And they get that 3, even 4 times in front of the same magistrate. They're told the same thing. They must make the punishment fit the crime.
So would you lay down in a tariff of minimum punishments for crimes like mugging and rape?
For mugging and rape? I thought we were talking about vandalism.
Well, and violence.
Mugging and rape, I mean, should carry a prison sentence without a doubt, and a long one as well.
Elizabeth Peacock, the Conservatives, Ken Wilmot was claiming at the last 2 elections, have claimed they were the party of law and order, and yet crime keeps on going up. Question perhaps the audience like to know the answer is why, and what are you going to do about it?
Well, already we have taken action since 1979. The number of policemen on the beat has been increasing steadily. The facts actually prove there are now more policemen on the beat. There are neighbourhood watch schemes, all of which are helping. There has been an increase in violent crimes. We have many youngsters committing violent crimes who are nowhere near the age of ever going to work. They peak at a much younger age, and therefore I don't think we can blame just unemployment because they're not old enough to be employed.
Would you say that there is a link of some sort? Ken Wilmot says there's a link. Would you say there was a link?
Undoubtedly, in families with stress, there could be a link. But I think what is even more important, there are sentences available to the court. Much firmer sentences have been given to the magistrates to use. They aren't always used. But I think until we have a proper deterrent in this country, we won't get rid of all the violence that we've got.
Meaning what?
The return of the death penalty.
Gentleman Mayor. Yes. We've had a call for the return of the death penalty from Mrs. Peacock. Do we want to comment on that? Yes, yes, sir.
Would Ken Wilmot agree that the police should be allowed to police without interference from Labour control watch committees?
Good point. Let's deal with that one quickly. Let's just get it clear. Is it Labour policy to allow local police committees to interfere with what I guess the gentleman was talking about, police operational procedures?
I'm more than happy to repeat Labour Party's firm policy and to deny the kind of Conservative propaganda we've been hearing hysteria in recent weeks and days.
So a firm commitment that
the
police
Labour
chief
Party
constables will be able to operate as they want.
Very firmly in support of the police, and the police must have the operational responsibilities. How on earth can anybody else other than the police decide how to deal with crime from day to day?
A firm commitment. Let's take a few points to the audience. Yes, sir, the gentleman in the back with the smart jacket.
I think all our panel, speaking politically and maybe scoring points, maybe not scoring points, but I feel, and I'm sure the audience feels here today, that everyone has missed the point. And I think we should look at the families, should look at the parents to accept responsibility and not look for reasons and whys for the police.
All right, responsibility lies with the parents, you would say. Let's do the lady there in the middle. Yes, thank you.
We also have to look at what happens in schools. Is it not true that some socialist local authorities won't permit the liaison police to go into schools anymore to talk to children? What has Ken Wilmot got to say about that?
Well, can we put that on hold? Mrs. Peacock suggested the return of the death penalty. Any comments on that? Yes, sir, at the back with the glasses. Sorry, I hope you can see him. He's got his red pencil up. Here he is.
Would Mrs. Peacock take the job of being hangman? And would she keep that job if one single innocent person was hung?
Right. Any more points? Yes. No, we've heard both of you. Let's just, Ken Wilmer, the point about police liaison, people going into schools.
I've no doubt whatsoever, in my view, that the police should be given every possible cooperation by the community, by educational authorities and schools. I don't think that the police can have a chance, a snowball's chance, as they say, of dealing with this unless they have absolute full support. That's a very strong view I've always held. And I hope that in this area we keep up that policy. We back the police because the police deserve every help they can get.
Keith Burke, there are a lot of questions on the capital punishment issue. Can we just get it clear where you stand on capital punishment?
I'm against capital punishment. I'm against capital punishment in bringing back hanging.
All right. Elizabeth Peacock, the question asked to you was, would you take the job as hangman?
In fact, I have had so many offers of a hangman in this constituency in the last 2 weeks, I wouldn't need to do it. And there is a very great need in this country. In fact, recently, when we tried to introduce a new clause to the Criminal Justice Bill, the whole of the Labour Party and SDP alliance voted in Parliament against it.
Right, listen, I want to take one more question, please, on another very important topic before we run out of time. Mary Lodge. Where's Mary Lodge? Can I hear your question, please, Mary?
Pensioners seem to be getting worse off year by year. What are the candidates going to offer to us next year?
Keith Burke, can I turn around to you because you have some specific proposals about pensions. What will the Alliance do about pensions?
We would increase it considerably, certainly not by 40 pence. I think that was an insult. Year after year, we come round to a general election and we bring the pensioners out, don't we? We bring them out, we discuss it, you're going to get more, you're going to get this, you're going to get your free television licence. And it's about time that whoever wins this election does exactly what they say they're going to do on this platform and give the pensioners a reasonable living wage.
Right. So to be quite clear, you're proposing a flat across-the-board increase in the single pension.
And the
state
pension, yes. And an increase on top of that for people that only have to live on pensions alone that do not have any other income.
What are the Labour proposals? Very briefly, Ken Wilmer, please.
We're going to restore the link between pensions and earnings, which the Conservatives have broken, which has left pensioners, single pensioners £7 a week worse off, and married pensions £11 a week. We're going to do three things for pensioners. We will immediately increase the single pension by £5 and the married pension by £8. We're going, secondly, to introduce what I'm sure is second most important to pensioners, and that is a better deal for heating in the winter. And we're going to make sure that pensioners who need it, without all the kind of qualifications that the Tories introduced, getting a £5 help every
What are you going to do, Elizabeth Peacock? Very quickly, please. Very quickly.
The Conservatives will continue to increase pensions to keep up with the cost of living as they have in the past.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, I'm afraid I had to stop it there. Thank you, members of the panel. Thank you, audience, for your questions. Next week, we're in Rydale. The Roadshow, Tuesday lunchtime's in Grimsby. But it's going on here for a bit, I think. But until then, goodbye. Hey, what was the point? Yes? Yes?